Good morning. Welcome to Thursday morning Hatha Yoga. I don't really know who's all signed in, so hopefully it feels like I'm making eye contact with you, looking into the camera. My name's Carol. If you haven't already had a class with me, and if you're new to my classes, welcome. I do teach as the name would suggest, in the Hatha style. So we move maybe a little slower into postures and then hold them for a little longer. Though we will do some vinyasa type movements today, moving with breath. So let's start by connecting to the breath. So closing the eyes, if that's comfortable. If you're ever not comfortable closing your eyes, you can lower the eyelids almost all the way, looking down at the floor in front of your feet. Coming to a comfortable seat, so whatever that is for you. I am sitting on the edge of a bolster. Maybe you want to sit on the edge of a blanket. Maybe you want to have your legs out in front of you. Whatever is comfortable for you. And let's begin to notice the breath. Noticing that sensation of breath at the nostrils. Maybe even noticing that cool air coming down the back of the throat. And then as you exhale, noticing the breath maybe a little bit warmer as it comes across the upper lip. And I usually say at this point we're letting go of all that needed to happen in order for us to get here this morning. And maybe it was just moving from the living room to wherever you're connecting in to this class. And I know it's really hard right now to let go of some of the thoughts and worries maybe that are floating around in our heads in the morning. But doing our best to spend this next hour just focusing on the breath and the movement, though I can't see anybody, though even if I could, this would be okay. If you feel the need to lay on your back and focus on your breath for 60 minutes, that's absolutely okay. So as we deepen our breaths, maybe even accentuating the exhale. So the exhale is a little bit longer than the inhale. This is just helping to signal to our brain that it's okay to move out of fight or flight, our sympathetic nervous system, and move into that rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system. Something that is even more important right now, maybe than in our more routine before life. And then I'll just chat a bit about, I always teach to a theme. And this week I've been really thinking about the concept of karma yoga. So karma yoga is the yoga of selfless service. So even if we aren't doing anything that we consider in particular that is selfless service, some might be helping neighbors with groceries, or some might be working in some sort of frontline job, whether it's in healthcare or any of the other essential services that are open. But all of us are practicing selfless service by giving up what we've all had to give up in order to try to, or hopefully stop this virus. And I also like to think of it as selfless kindness. So when you give, you also receive. And let's take our hands, bringing the backs of the hands to the tops of the thighs, and we'll just bring them into gentle fists. And then, even though we're not going to block the nostrils, we're going to visualize some alternate nostril breathing. So on the inhale, I'm going to imagine I'm breathing in through the left nostril, slight pause at the top, and then exhaling through the right. Inhale, right nostril, slight pause at the top, exhale left. And this round, when I inhale through the left nostril, let's open the left hand, Slight pause at the top. Close the left hand, open the right. Exhale, right. Inhale, right. Pause, close the right hand, open the left. Exhale, left. So let's continue through in this pattern, opening the hand of the side of the nose you are breathing through, pausing to change hands. And the next time you exhale through the left side of the nose, open up both hands. Take a few deep breaths out of both nostrils, even though we were the whole time. So hopefully we've really been able to drop into a nice calm place. We've just given the brain the 3 priorities. Breath, always number 1. And then hands and face being a top, a 2 or 3. So we can slowly open the eyes. On the inhale, we'll move through circle of joy. Let's bring the arms up overhead, interlocking the fingers. Pressing the palms towards the ceiling. Exhale, rounding the back, arms forward. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands behind the back, interlocking the fingers, pressing the palms again down towards the mat. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, left hand down, right arm up and over. Inhale through center, right hand down, left arm up and over. Inhale, both arms up. And exhale, fold. Doesn't matter how far forward we come. Let's take an extra breath here. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist left, right hand, left knee, sitting up tall. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist right, left hand, right knee, sitting up tall. Inhale, arms up. And exhale, hands to prayer. So if your legs are crossed, let's switch up which leg is in front, and we'll move through that one more time. Inhale, arms up. Interlocking the fingers. Maybe switch in the palms. If that doesn't feel good, you can keep them this way. Exhale, arms forward. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, bringing the hands behind the back, interlocking the fingers. And again, maybe flipping the palms, maybe not, down towards the mat. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, left hand down, right arm up and over. Inhale through center, right hand down, left arm up and over. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Let's take an extra breath here. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist left, right hand, left knee, sitting up tall. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist right, left hand, right knee. And finally, inhale, arms up. And exhale, hands to prayer. Let's take an extra breath. Bringing the hands to the tops of the thighs. Let's lean forward just as far as is comfortable. And over to the right. Maybe a big arch in the back as I roll onto both sit bones and to the left. I can bend my elbows and move my torso. You might even move your neck a little. I always keep mine neutral. Changing direction. Maybe finding those areas of tension or tightness. Excellent. Coming back to center. I'm going to come around onto hands and knees. So some of you may have your mats set up on maybe some carpeting so it's extra soft, but if you've got a blanket handy, that might be something that you bring to these new online practices, maybe to bring some padding under the knees. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Let's move through cat-cow. So on the inhale, I'm dropping my belly towards the mat, pointing the tailbone up, lifting the chest. And again, I keep my neck neutral, but if you want to lift the gaze a little, exhale, round in the back, pressing into the hands, tailbone pointing down. If it feels better to be up on the toes, feel free. And now when I inhale, lift up, maybe feeling like I'm pulling my hands towards my knees. And as I exhale, rounding my back, feeling as if I'm pushing my hands away from the knees. Just engaging the arms a little bit more. And next time the back comes through neutral, let's pause there. We'll push the hips to the right, back down towards the heels, doesn't matter how close they get, over to the left and forward. So just like our torso circles, I can bend my elbows, moving my hips and torso and shoulders, maybe trying to find that spot that needs that stretch this morning. Changing direction. And coming back to center. I'm going to tuck my toes and walk my hands back towards my knees. So some of us that have been practicing this for a while probably be able to bring our shoulders right over our hips. Some of us are going to have to keep weight forward if that's just too intense of a sensation. We're trying to stretch the fascia in the bottoms of the feet and bring some mobility to the toes. One more breath. And then inhale, coming forward. We'll untuck the toes and tap them out a little on the mat. Walking the hands back to the knees. Let's bring the right knee forward, pressing the hands into the thigh and coming to standing. So I'm just going to turn to face you so it's a little easier to see for these first few moves. I'm going to move through our first sun salutation. I used to always call them half sun salutations because I very rarely teach the bottom half, the chaturanga portion. But I've stopped referring them to as half because this is my version of the sun salutation. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, deep bend in the knees, especially for this first forward fold. Belly can rest on thighs, hands reaching towards the mat. My knees are bent as deeply as needed. If you've got something handy like books or a cushion that helps bring the floor a little closer, feel free. I'm keeping my neck relatively neutral, but if you want to tuck the chin a little bit more to the chest, and then maybe reaching for opposite elbows, maybe even a gentle twist if that's okay for the back or the knees. And then exhale, hands back down towards the mat. Inhale, I'm going to bring hands to shins. My shoulders are coming away from my ears. And as I press my hands into the shins, I'm really reaching forward with the crown of my head. Couple of breaths here, really lengthening the spine. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up, rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. Inhale, arms up. Let's move through one time without pause. Exhale, fold. Inhale to that half lift, flat back. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up, rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. And in keeping my neck neutral, those of you that don't usually practice with me, I just lift my gaze to the ceiling at the top of that sun salutation versus lifting my neck, just in case you're wondering. So I'm just going to turn so it's a little easier to see the postures I'm moving into. We're going to step back with the left foot, legs length, maybe a little bit more. That back foot toes are angled up towards the top left-hand corner of the mat. I'm going to recommend you bring the feet a little further apart so that right foot's maybe a little closer to the right edge of the mat as I bend into the front knee. Maybe feeling like I can square my shoulders to the front of the room. The hips may not be perfectly square, and that's fine. Inhale, arms up overhead. Shoulders away from the ears. Palms facing. I might even bring a slight bend into the elbows. Warrior one. Coming back to those big, deep breaths, maybe seeing through the practice if I can continue to accentuate the exhale a little. And a little bit of gentle pressure into the feet as if I was trying to move them away from each other on the mat. Exhale, let's bring the arms down into cactus. And then twisting to the right, I'm going to reach my left arm up to the ceiling. My right hand might reach and touch that left thigh. It might come to the low back on the right. Just a little bit of a extra twist. And then inhale, coming back, bringing the arms out into cactus. Maybe just for a moment, leading with the chest. You might lift the chin, look at the ceiling. I'm just lifting my gaze, slight back bend. And then releasing the arms. Let's interlock the hands behind the back. Try not to pull my mic pack off. And on the exhale, we're going to lead with the chest and slowly fold forward. I might stay halfway, particularly if my low back is bothering me. Feel free to support yourself with hands on the thighs. But if it feels okay, I might continue to fold forward, bringing the right knee towards the right, or right shoulder towards the right knee. I can keep my gaze looking at the front foot. I might bring chin to chest looking at the back. And now my shoulders are quite tight. So I'm going to lift my arms maybe as much as I can. Some might be able to lift them more. Some might decide to keep them on the body, pulling them down towards the tailbone. Humble warrior. Next, inhale, really pressing into that front foot and lowering the arms if they were lifted. Slowly bringing ourselves back up to standing. Let's release that bind. Give the arms a little shake. Left foot forward. Move through our sun salutation. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, deep bend in the knees. Inhale, half lift to flat back. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up. Rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. I'm just going to turn around so you can see my feet a little better. Stepping back with the right foot. Again, having it more or less angled to the top right-hand corner. If you need to change that angle to make the hips feel a little more comfortable, please do. Maybe walking that left foot a little closer to the left edge of the mat. Squaring the shoulders to the front of the room, bending into that front knee. Inhale, arms up. Shoulders away from the ears, palms facing, maybe slight bend in the elbows. that gentle pressure into the feet. Warrior one. Big deep breaths, seeing if you can accentuate the exhale just a little. On the next exhale, let's bring the arms into cactus, kind of feeling those shoulder blades coming together behind us. Exhale, twisting to the left. My left hand might reach and touch somewhere on that right thigh. I might place it on the low back, reaching the right arm to the ceiling. If this doesn't feel good for the low back, just take some of the twist out. There's no specific goal on how deeply we twist. Inhale, bringing the arms back to cactus, lifting the chest, maybe lifting the chin, looking at the ceiling, slight back bend. And then reaching the hands behind, interlocking the fingers, pulling the hands down towards the tailbone, really leading with the chest, feeling that back stay flat. Again, I can pause here and bring my hands to my thigh. Or some of us might continue forward, bringing that left shoulder towards the left knee. I can keep my gaze at the front foot or drop chin to chest looking at the back. And I might have the availability to lift the shoulders up, or hands up off the back. I don't know if we have the benefit of straps in this class. I would normally teach this with a strap. We can get a little bit more mobility with tight shoulders. Inhale, really pressing into that front foot to bring ourselves back up with control. Let's give the hands a shake. Right foot forward, sun salutation. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift, flat back. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up. Rise up. Exhale, hands to prayer. Okay, I'm going to take a quick sip of water. And we'll get ready to set up. So we'll step back with our left foot into warrior two. So back foot is more or less parallel to the short edge of the mat. But again, if it feels better to have it on one angle or another, that's fine. Taking at least a leg's length step. The heel of that front foot probably line up with the arch of the back. Hands on hips to start. Doesn't matter if the knee goes a little past the ankle, but if I can really comfortably bend deeper, I might walk that front foot a little bit more forward. Hips are open in this posture. We'll inhale the arms to shoulder height. Maybe taking a quick look at that back arm to see if it is where we think it is. And settling the gaze over the middle front finger. Again, I'm pressing down and out with my feet as if I was trying to move them apart on the mat. And then as I often teach, when I teach this posture, and I think probably has more meaning now than any time, and when we think about the qualities of a warrior, and right now we're all warriors. Some a little more on the front line than others. But we can embody strength, courage, stamina, selfless service. Just like Virabhadrasana, the warrior that these postures were named for. Exhale, let's drop the back arm down the back leg, reaching the right arm to the ceiling. You can look up at that top hand or keep your neck more neutral. I still have a bend in the front knee, and I'm lifting up and out of the waist and maybe curling slightly back. Really trying to open up the ribs on the right. You're offering a nice stretch on the right side of the body. This is reverse or exalted warrior. And then on the inhale, let's come back to warrior 2. And then I'm going to bend up this front arm, tipping myself to the right, resting that right forearm on my right thigh. I'm going to recommend we all start with our hands on our hips, because I find it so much easier to open up that left shoulder and either decide to stay here, maybe reach the left arm to the ceiling, or maybe reach the left arm forward, pinkies down. I'm going to put lots of weight into that front leg, so hopefully I can come up light, resting on that right arm. This is extended side angle. Inhale, let's come back to warrior 2, and then exhale back to reverse. So we're going to move a little with breath. The sequence is dancing warrior. Inhale to warrior 2. Exhale, extended side angle. Moving with your breath. This is a better time than, or perfect time, to not worry about whether you're keeping up with anybody. Maybe somebody in the house you're practicing with, but that's about it. And then let's all meet back in warrior 2. Taking a breath here. And then lowering the arms. Let's straighten that leg, pivot the right foot forward so both feet are pointed in the same direction. Hands at the tops of the thighs. I like to keep the knees soft. As we exhale, let's bring the hands to just above the knees and pause. And then feel like you're tilting the pelvis in that cow shape. So pointing my tailbone to the ceiling. And then continuing to fold forward. So I can have a deep bend in my knees. I can have hands resting anywhere on the legs. Maybe they make it to ankles. Maybe the floor is accessible. Again, this is maybe where some books or some cushions might help bring the floor a little closer. I'm going to keep my neck neutral, but feel free to drop your chin to chest, looking back through the legs. So the wide leg forward fold is an inversion, bringing the head below the heart, helping to bring fresh blood to the face, throat, the whole head. Maybe encouraging us to go a little more inward, maybe encouraging a little bit more calm. And then from here, stretching the arms out as far as is comfortable, and then maybe just a little bit further apart. Maybe just a little bit of weight into the hands. This is wide-legged down dog. This is a much more accessible version, lot less weight on the shoulders and wrists, but hopefully still a nice opening in the backs of the legs. And then bringing the hands back to in between the feet. Let's bring the hands to the sides of the legs. Deep bend in the knees, really pressing into the outside edges of the feet to bring ourselves up to standing. Let's heel toe the feet together. Come to stand at the top of the mat. Move through our sun salutation. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift, flat back. Exhale, fold. And inhale, arms up. Rise up. exhale, hands to prayer. So we'll step back with the right foot this time. Again, choosing the angle that feels better for the hip. Hands on hips to start, bending into that front knee. Just checking the stance. I always teach that, our stance could probably be different every single time we come to the mat. So some days I'm going to be more comfortable, maybe one side. Two will be different than the other. Inhaling the arms to shoulder height. And then my teacher always told me good warriors look behind them. So just having a look at that back arm and then settling the gaze over the middle front finger. Big deep breaths. And if you've been practicing for a while, my knee always sort of collapses a little inward. So I just spiral my thigh a little, having the knee maybe try to point towards the pinky side of the foot a bit more. I have gentle pressure in the feet. I can always bring my hands to the waist if ever my arms are getting too tired. And maybe just a few breaths thinking about the qualities of a warrior. Strength, stamina. In this case, our battle may not be physical. It's a battle of strength and stamina to stay away from others, which is hard for a lot of us. Think of everyone else other than ourselves. Exhale, let's drop that back arm down the back leg, raising the left arm to the ceiling, maybe palm back, just curving the head. Also feels nice sometimes here to bring the hand right behind the head or the neck. And then I just try and point my elbow to the ceiling. But I want to make sure I'm not collapsing. So I'm still thinking about lifting up and out of the waist and almost curling over a barrel. Inhale, arms back to warrior two. And then exhale, bending up that left arm, tipping to the left. Right arm can come to the ceiling or forward. It can always stay on the waist. I can always support myself on the thigh if needed. And then inhale back to warrior two. Exhale, reverse. So here's where we'll move with our own breath. Inhale, warrior two. Exhale, extended side angle. We'll all meet back in warrior two. Lowering the arms, straightening that left knee, pivoting the left foot forward. And then let's bring both heels in. Just a quick check to make sure that the knees are tracking over the ankles, or over the toes, pardon me. It's not better to have the feet more open. Probably not good for the hips or knee joints. Hands on the hips, and then I'm not pushing my bum out or forward. I'm imagining I've got something attached to my tailbone and I'm dropping straight down. So how far down you come really depends on often knees, hips. I want to feel my shoulders are stacked over my hips, and then I'll bring my arms out in to cactus. I'm feeling my shoulder blades coming together behind me. Goddess pose. Big deep breaths here. And then we'll move a little with breath. So on the inhale, bringing the hands and then the elbows. And exhale, open. Feeling those shoulder blades coming together behind us. Inhale together. Exhale, open. Let's do that 3 more times, moving with your own breath. And again, seeing if you can accentuate that exhale. The thighs might be burning a little, feeling free to straighten the legs at any time. Now we can straighten the legs. Reach the arms up for opposite corners, lifting the chest, maybe lifting the head, 5-pointed star. Exhale, lowering the arms, heel toe the feet together. We'll come to stand at the top of the mat. Move our final sun salutation to bring us down to the mat. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, deep bend in the knees to come down to hands and knees. Let's cycle through a few cat-cow stretches. And then bringing the spine back to neutral. Let's push the hips to the right, looking over the left shoulder, letting the hips come as far over as is comfortable or until you feel a stretch. Pushing them to the left, looking over the right shoulder. Back and forth a few times. Maybe even pausing for a breath or two on one side or the other, if that's the one that needs maybe a bit more stretch. And then we're going to come into child's pose. So I know this isn't always the most comfortable for everyone, but bringing the knees wide, toes to touch behind, hips back towards the heels, doesn't matter how close they get. Reaching the arms forward. I can't bring my head right down because of the mic, but bringing the head to the mat. If it doesn't quite reach, you can either tuck something underneath it or maybe place one hand on top of each other. For those of us that have the arms stretched out, seeing maybe if you can bring the hands into prayer. And then maybe seeing if it's comfortable to bring the hands, the wrists behind the neck, fingers pointing to the ceiling. If that doesn't work, another one is to come to forearms, bringing the hands in prayer, and maybe just letting the head rest on something. I'm going to come out of the posture just to read a little. So this is very much a posture of humility, devotion. So when we think about karma yoga, so it is a type of yoga, but even the concept of karma is what we practice, we become. So I like to think in the times if we are getting out of the house, it's usually just to get our necessities. We've been pretty good in Cochrane. The panic or the crowds of people seemed to be a few weeks ago, and now it seems to be everyone's sort of not going as often and not panicking maybe as much. But I certainly have seen places where it's like a war zone, some of the grocery stores. So maybe one of the things we can do practicing selfless kindness is lend some patience in these situations. Lots of things are happening that aren't fair, which for me is a really big pet peeve. So I really have to think to myself sometimes, I don't always need to kind of speak up in a situation. Sometimes I just need to be that quiet, patient energy in the lineup. And although we need to sort of refrain from having those big visits when we're out, there's certainly nothing wrong with making eye contact and smiling. Sometimes you don't get a smile back, that's okay. And then my one last little soapbox is we're doing so much digital communication right now, and it's even easier to be distracted than before. I hope most of us are maybe getting out of that mode a little because we are so appreciative of all our connections. But listen, be present. It's hard to not be thinking of lots of different things at once, or be doing a class and having the TV on in the background, or whatever it is that might be distracting us. Taking these moments to kind of focus in when we can. So just one more big breath in child's pose or whatever variation you have chosen. And then on the inhale, let's come back to all fours. I'm going to bring my right hand maybe just a little bit closer to the center. I'm going to keep my right knee exactly where it is and kick that right foot off the right edge of the mat. And then I'll stretch my left leg out beside me. Let's bring our hands to hips to begin, because again, I find it a little easier to open up that left shoulder, maybe turning my chest a little bit towards the ceiling. I might adjust that right foot into a little bit more of a kickstand, reaching that left arm up to the ceiling. Let's take a few breaths to ground here, really grounding down in the right hand and the right knee. And then maybe see if we can lift that left leg. So as some of you know, I've studied a lot of accessible yoga. So in accessible yoga, this is a variation of half moon, standing half moon. So I prefer to call it that versus maybe a modified side plank. 2 more breaths wherever you're at. You don't have to lift to the leg if that's not in your practice or your balance today. Exhale, lowering that left leg. Let's bring the left hand back down. Left knee. A couple of those hip drops, just in case we built up any tension. And then I'm just going to turn around. We'll bring the left hand maybe a little closer to the center of the mat, kicking that left foot into that kickstand, stretching the right leg out. Let's bring hand to hip, opening up the shoulder, maybe turning the chest slightly towards the ceiling, reaching that right arm up. Really feeling like you're reaching the arms apart from each other, grounding down into the hand, and then maybe lifting that left leg. Don't stop breathing. This is a balance. If you've got the leg lifted, it's a balance if you don't, because we're not on all 4 arms and legs. And smile. Exhale, lowering that leg if it was lifted. Right hand, left knee, right knee. A few hip drops. And then I'm just going to turn right back around. We'll roll on to the right or left hip, bringing the legs out in front of us. Sitting up tall, arms at our sides. So I don't want that round in my back. I want to lift my chest forward. Itchy nose. Toes pointed to the ceiling, hands at the sides. So it's purely a arm to torso ratio. My palms don't quite touch down, but I'm pressing them in that direction. Lifting my chest. So this is our seated mountain, Dandasana, a really active pose probably for all of us, as even if we ever do sit on the floor, we most likely don't sit with this posture. But it's another great way to ground. Let's move our tongue around the mouth a little, just creating a little extra saliva, and then swallow. Feeling that ground us right down through to the sit bones. feeling that connection of where the legs are touching the mat. And then on the inhale, let's bring the arms up overhead. Exhale, just a quick fold forward. Doesn't matter where the hands land or how close they get to the feet. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, just a slight back bend, so leaning back on the hands, lifting the chest, maybe lifting the head to the ceiling. Inhale, arms up. And then really leading with the chest as I fold forward. I like to try and keep my back straight, leaving my chest a bit lifted, just for another breath. And then on the exhale, I can round my back, maybe letting chin come to chest. I don't know if you've got a blanket. You can always tuck a blanket under the knees. You can reach for whatever's available. This is very often not a favorite posture. We don't have the benefit of gravity that we do in our standing forward fold. But it is something that sometimes we need to sit in this little bit of discomfort in order to maybe get a little bit of release in whatever it is that might be holding us back in this posture. One more breath. And then inhale, let's slowly walk the hands up the knees. Again, just a little bit of a lift of the chest, a little bit of a counter back bend. And then we'll come all the way down onto our backs. Getting used to knees bent, feet hip distance apart. We'll move through some rolling bridges. We'll do one slow just to make sure that we've coming into the right shape for us. So on the inhale, I'm pressing into my feet, lifting my hips. My hands are at my sides, palms facing down. I don't want my knees to splay open. So as I inhale, lift my hips. On the exhale, I imagine I'm squeezing a block between my knees. We'll stay here for a couple breaths. And then exhale, lower the hips to the mat. We'll take a breath here, and then we're going to move with breath 4 or 5 times. So inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift the hips. Keeping those knees hip distance apart, squeezing that imaginary block. Exhale, lower. Now moving with your own breath. Even choosing to stay in bridge for several breaths if that feels better for you this morning. And the next time the hips are back down on the mat, let's bring the soles of the feet together, letting the knees fall open. If you've got some sort of support and you know you would like to have that underneath the backs of the thighs, you can tuck something in. I like to place my left hand on my heart, my right hand on my belly. Coming back to those deeper breaths with that little bit extra long exhale. Beginning to start the process of turning a little more inward, getting ready for our Shavasana. And 2 more big breaths in this shape. And then slowly bringing the knees back together. Let's walk the feet to the outside edges of the mat. And just let the knees drop right and left a few times. And then I'm going to stretch my legs out straight. Reaching my arms up overhead, letting the back of the hands touch the mat behind, bending my elbows as much as I need to comfortably rest my arms. If having the arms overhead just isn't available, feel free to keep them on the body or at the sides. I'm going to move both my feet down to the bottom right-hand corner of the mat. I might be able to take my left ankle and cross it over the right. That might be too intense. I can keep my feet side by side. And then I'm going to lift my head and shoulders and point them up towards the top right-hand corner of the mat. I sometimes even like to hold on to my left hand or my left wrist just to accentuate the opening on the left side. But coming into too deep of a twist can sometimes, and this is a super technical term, tweak the low back. So if you're feeling any pinching or a different sensation there, it might mean that you need to just back off of the bend a little. Big deep breaths. So this is banana pose. It's a yin pose. Really working on stretching that left side of the body. You can probably feel this right from the ankle all the way up to the wrist, especially if we're extra tense or tight right now. Regardless of what our days are filled with now, whether we're standing or sitting, we are compressing our ribs. So it feels really nice to open them up. It's a good spot to imagine that I'm directing my breath right into that extra open area. And 2 more breaths in this shape. And then lifting the head and shoulders back to the center, uncrossing the ankles if they were crossed, bringing the feet back to center, and then moving feet to bottom left, maybe crossing the right ankle. It might not be available on this side. Inhaling the head and shoulders up over to the left. One side of the body is typically more tense or tighter than the other for about a million different reasons. I know my right side is much tighter than the left. I am still able to cross my ankles, but it sometimes gets to the point where I can feel that I need to uncross them. A sensation can be, it's such a personal thing. We all feel it differently. They say pain is like love. We all feel it quite differently. It's all difficult to explain in words. But I was taught that if the sensations kind of are an S word, so searing, of course now I can't think of hardly any of them because I brought this up. Searing, sharp. When the pain just is something that we can't comfortably breathe through, then we're holding into a shape probably that we're going to regret. Maybe not right away, maybe tomorrow. 2 more breaths in this shape. And then on the next inhale, let's bring the head and shoulders back to the center. Uncross the ankles, bringing the feet back to the middle. We can bring the arms back down to our sides, bending up the knees, again walking the feet to the outside edges of the mat. And just a final windshield wiper of the knees back and forth. And then I'm going to sit up and guide you into your Shavasana. So my guided meditation, which I offer in every class, today is going to be a little bit more guidance on moving into Shavasana. It is always a very important posture, but maybe even more so now than before, where I think getting ourselves into a shape and a place where we can comfortably rest is extremely important in these uncertain times. So grabbing the few things that maybe you're using to make yourself more comfortable. Maybe a blanket folded under the head, a blanket rolled up under your knees. Maybe a blanket covering you if your room is a bit cool because we're on 12th winter. I don't know, I've lost count. It does seem unimportant, and if anything, and maybe it's keeping people inside, so that's all good. So lie on your back. Bring the legs about 12 to 18 inches apart, adjusting the distance until the hip joints relax. Draw the shoulder blades down and away from the ears and slide them toward one another until they seem to rest flat against the floor underneath you. Release the arms to the sides, placing them 8 to 10 inches from the body, palms facing up. Gently lengthen the lower back, sliding the buttocks in the direction of the tailbone, allowing the low back to retain a natural arch. If lying with straight legs creates discomfort for the back, place a rolled blanket or bolster under the knees, or bend the knees, placing the feet on the outside edges of the mat, and let the knees support each other. Close your eyes. Take a moment to survey the body, adjusting it to be as comfortable as possible. Now turn your attention to your breath. Inhale through your nose and be aware of the breath as it fills your lungs, your abdomen rises, and then without pause, begin the exhalation, continuing to breathe through your nose while allowing the abdomen to fall naturally as the air leaves your lungs. Relax and allow the rhythmic nature of the breath to take over as inhalation and exhalation flow effortlessly into one another. Soon the back of the body will begin to feel a gentle warmth as it rests against the floor. Allow this sensation to rise through the front of the body. Soften the face, the front of the neck and throat, the chest, the tops of the shoulders, the arms all the way to the tips of your fingers. Relax the rib cage and the area of your heart. The abdomen softens as it rises and falls with the breath. The tops of the thighs soften and your relaxed attention flows all the way down to the tips of the toes. Then it moves all the way back up to the crown of the head. Bones, muscles, movement, I surrender now. Anxiety, elation and depression, churning thoughts, all these I give to the hands of peace. Relax here. I'll bring you back in a moment. So I do need to sign off on this class. Feel free to stay in this position that we spent some time moving into. I'm just going to leave us with some words from the Sufi poet Hafiz. I wish I could show you when you are lonely or in the darkness, the astonishing light of your own being. Thank you very much for sharing your practice with me this morning. Namaste. And have a lovely day.